Hi, Scrappy Peeps. Suzanna here today to share with you my interpretation of the September 1st Stuck Sketches sketch. That's the sketch, and this is the layout that I created based on that sketch. The sketch calls for 2 pictures and a bunch of horizontal strips behind it, and that's exactly what I did. But because I was designing on a piece of white cardstock, I wanted to create a little bit of a mixed media background. I had chosen the colors that I was going to work with, and it was based on that Fancy Pants diagonal, or it's more a giant chevron. You'll see it come up. And so it had navy blue, hot pink, peach, and an aqua tealy color. And so I chose to use this pink and navy blue just to use the packaging technique and put some mist on the back of the layout. And after I did that, I just splattered a few drops of the same color but not watered down on top of it, just for a little added effect. I do end up covering most of it, but it does provide a nice backdrop to all of these pattern papers. So you can see that bucket there. It's from IKEA, and I save all of my selvage strips. And so I had pre-pulled all of the colors that I mentioned earlier as options for this layout and things that coordinated with that main stripe from Fancy Pants that I mentioned earlier. I also had a washi tape collection from Recollections that coordinated with this, but I will use them. They just didn't feature as much in the layout as I thought they were going to. So all I'm doing in the bulk of this video is me finding stripes and colors and trying to coordinate them and do various lengths and things to them in order to add a little bit of visual interest behind this picture. So that's the paper that I was talking about that was the foundation of the color choices for my layout. I like to have one piece of pattern paper that has more than one color in it as the unifying theme throughout my color palettes in my layouts. And so you'll always hear me reference one piece of pattern paper with many colors in it. So I just dig through my pile. The thing about selvage strips is many selvage strips are all that same sort of slightly more than a 1/4 inch size, and I wanted to have various sizes. So I did try and use some of the pattern papers that I had pulled out as well. That strip is from Cocoa Daisy. Truly, they are from all over the place. That is, I believe that's Amy Tan. These are pictures of myself on going to work. I am not allowed to wear sneakers to work. I am a physical therapist, and so I had these hot pink Keens on that coordinated with my hot pink shirt. Funnily enough, I am not a hot pink fan, but girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, right? So I had taken a selfie this particular day. I'm not sure why, and I happened to be wearing my lab coat and that shirt, and so I thought it would be fun to just scrap myself. So many strips, and so I just arranged them. I was trying to build them around the pictures, and it was getting frustrating. So I just decided that I would lay them all out, and then I would go from there. So I laid out my strips, and I found this piece from Authentique and decided that the stripes were all fairly uniform. And so by throwing in a punched scallop edge, it made for a little bit of variety to the layout and added something a little more visually striking rather than the monotony of the strips running all the way down. I did rip some of the edges of the strips. I did V some of the edges of the strips. And again, just for some variety in the strips and the layout. I decided I didn't want to back these pictures because there was a lot that was going on. I did want to tag. In the sketch, Laura has used tag to the right side of the pictures, so I did stick with that, and I used that tag from My Mind's Eye there, although you will notice later on that it's too busy, and so I do switch it from that one to just a plain white tag. I do use this for journaling, so I create a hidden space for that tag to be able to pull in and out. And that's what I did with the double-sided tape there, and then just adhesive all over this. And so what I end up doing with the stripes around the picture is just cutting them so that they tuck out from the left-hand side of the picture and the right-hand side of the picture, where you'll see where they go. So there's that unifying piece there, and I put it at the top of the picture so that you can see it in its entirety and see the V that it does create, or giant chevron. And then I had smushed all those stripes down to the bottom that I thought I would lay out in an organized fashion, and there was too much, and keeping track of it all was more than I could cope with, so I just basically reconstructed the layout. So you can see here where I just used those little short tags off the end there, and I could have put them behind the picture, but it would have been a bit of a waste. There's that strip from Cocoa Daisy. It was hard to find that purpley blue that matched, and that one was perfect from Cocoa Daisy. So there's the washi that I mentioned earlier. I had a whole collection of them, and I had wanted to feature a little bit more of the washi on the layout, but it just didn't work for me, and that's okay. There will be plenty of opportunities down the road to use it, I'm sure. I do use it in my planner, and it's a scrappy planner, and I liked that big strip there. So for some of these, to create the banner effect, I just folded the ends in half and snipped them, and it created a nice symmetrical effect there. So that's a very heavy weight on top of a light paper, and so I needed a little bit of color, and I used those cameras there to just provide that color on the lightness on the top there. This will be the last strip that I lay down, and I have a hole there beside the picture that I want to fill, so I use that blue. And then once I've got all of these strips down, I want to embellish this a little bit. I tore this piece here to put another short piece just for some weight to match that short piece on top. And this is where I end up nestling the title. My title ended up being Create. I had wanted to say Create Your Own Happy, but I ran out of room for Create Your Own Happy, because this layout was about my ability to really be able to play with my schedule at work, and how I have been at my job for 10 years, which is the longest I've ever been at any job. And how I love having the flexibility that I have at my job. So these are the embellishments. I pulled out a bunch of embellishments that had that same color palette that I referenced earlier, and I started with these two hearts. I really liked them, and I had put them in the original places that Laura had called for the embellishments in the sketch, but I ended up changing my mind, and in the process I left some sticky adhesive behind, and so had to cover that up. So that's where I swapped out the tag for the pink polka dot for just the white one, so that you could see it and it was a little bit more visible. And I'm still building this layout based on those two hearts as my embellishment clusters, but you'll see where I change my mind shortly. I have all kinds of things here: Maggie Holmes, Pink Fresh Studios, the list goes on. I was non-discriminatory in manufacturer and just went with the color palette for this. That blue puffy sticker that I just attached up there, I didn't like the weight up the top, and so I end up taking that off the layout. Now you see I find this flower, and I like this flower much better, but it's too much next to my red rosy face and my rosacea, so I move it down, which creates some balance on the layout with the pink, which then prompts me to remove this heart, and you can see where I left that paper behind on the heart. I thought that ticket looked perfect there to sort of pull down a place to journal, and that camera nicely covered up the heart and gave me a way to fill a lot of that empty space too that was in that picture there. And pink bow looked better than the aqua bow. Some more decorations, and I just pull out some puffy hearts to create clusters for those embellishment clusters. I had thought that those thickers there would make a great title, but the color palettes weren't quite right, and I didn't like the white on the white, so I found these from One Canoe 2. I have become a very big One Canoe 2 fan. It's sort of captured my attention lately, and I went with that Create because the blue was the perfect sort of purple hue to it, even though it wasn't quite as dark as the other colors. And that is going to be the end of that layout. I'm just going to take my pen and draw 2 fine lines around the outer edge to just create a little bit of a heavier weight and define it. And that is it for me. So I'm shortly going to call this good. We would love for you to play along over at Stuck Sketches. Be sure to hit the link up button and show us what it is that inspired you by the sketch. Thanks for joining me today. Take care.